Hey everyone, I'm Lauren and welcome back to Light and Lavender, where we talk about all things books and my own writing journey. Today I have got my October wrap up for you. It's not a big one. In October I only managed to read 3 books and I'm going to go through them. One of them was an ARC, one of them was an audiobook, and one of them was a physical book that I borrowed from the library. The only physical book I read this month was The Deathless Girls by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. If I don't look at that name, I am not going to say it right. I've initially given this book a 3 stars, but I think it's more like a 2.5. I think I'm going to drop it. That's because I really enjoyed the premise of this story. I loved the idea of like a Dracula Brides retelling, but we pretty much had up until 70 pages before anything actually happened and before we actually met Dracula himself. So I'm not sure how you can have a Dracula's Brides retelling without actually including Dracula himself. This book was a part of a project which was meant to bring women to the forefront of literature, which is kind of funny because Dracula had 3 brides and yet this book only mentions 2, and then the 3rd bride is like chucked in randomly in the epilogue, so one of the brides is still pretty much forgotten and misaligned from history. But what are you going to do about it? This book deals with 2 twin sisters, Lil and Kizzy, who are part of a Romany traveller group who are unfortunately taken as hostages and slaves by one of the settled villagers within, I'm guessing it's Transylvania, I don't know where it's set. There's no sort of basic setting. There's a lot of words that are Russian based, so I know it's that sort of area of the world, but I'm not entirely sure which country this one is set in, and I can't remember if Dracula was actually in Transylvania or not, or if that's a different country. But we follow these 2 girls who are taken to one of the local landowners, counts sort of thing in this area, who uses them as slaves. They work initially in the kitchen and then are used as serving girls. Pretty much the first 200 pages of this book just has like no information for it. It's so slow paced but fast at the same time, so it takes forever to get to where it wants to go, but in a quick way. It seems like there's a lot of groundwork and a lot of building up. There's hints of a sapphic romance in this, but literally it's hints until it happens and then it's like all over and done, and I don't know, I just feel like the overall concept of this book was great but the actual execution of it wasn't so great, so I think 2.5 stars. I don't know if I would recommend this book to anyone. I think what I would say is if you're interested in Dracula and maybe sort of like a really slow burn style book, this might be for you, but otherwise it's not that great. At the back of this book it mentions that The Deathless Girls is Kieran's first YA novel, and her previous work has all been in middle grade, and I think you can kind of tell in the sense that this is quite simplistic in its overall plot and its overall story structure. There's not a lot of nuance, there's not a lot of subplots in this. It's not that complex, so I think that you can tell that it's a crossover between middle grade to YA in the author's style. I don't know if that is one of the reasons why it takes so long to get to where it needs to be, but I think it is worth mentioning that it's the first YA book this author's brought out, so if you're expecting sort of like on the higher end where maybe a bit more gritty and a bit more depth to it, that's not what you're going to get with this book. The ARC that I read in October was Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. This was my ARC from NetGalley. It was published in October. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. It's about 3 sisters who are descended from witches and have their lives thrown upside down because their dad is a really insecure, manipulative, narcissistic potentially man, and separates the 3 girls up, but they're able to reunite in a city when the youngest sister has turned 17, I want to say. So this story is sort of like a gender bending twist on like traditional fairy tale and traditional sort of nursery rhymes and things. Everything is based on witches being at the back end of it, so instead of them being fairy tales, they're witch tales. Instead of the Brothers Grimm, it's the Sisters Grimm. The Rapunzel storyline is actually, instead of it being Rapunzel, it's an old crone, one of the archetypes of witches, who spins the straw into gold. God, I've forgotten what that story was then. It's this sort of reworking throughout world and sort of cultural history and fairy tales that I've really enjoyed with this. It's also based during the women's suffrage movement in America at the time, so part of this sort of parallel universe of the world. Salem was burnt down in the witch trials, but then a new Salem was built up, and that's where we find our three protagonists, and also where most of the story takes place. New Salem's currently being overrun by women who want to keep the status quo, women who are being suffragettes, and also the Eastwood sisters, of which Juniper is trying to reclaim witchhood for all the women in the town and rise up and take their rightful places as important figures in life instead of being downtrodden and pushed aside. And this sort of stems from their early upbringing. So Juniper was the youngest sister, and although it doesn't explicitly say it, there's a lot of abuse going on, and it must have been horrifically awful, the amount of abuse that was actually going on throughout this poor girl's life. And when she was 8, her second oldest sister had left home, her oldest sister had already gone, so she was left alone to deal with it all on her own. And I think it shows potentially not a hatred for men, but like a hatred for people who think they're better than others. I really love the way this story is played out. It takes the point of view of each of the sisters and rolls it through. Each chapter starts with a nursery rhyme, which is actually the way that witches' spells have been hidden from society since time immortal. And I love the way that these little nursery rhymes also link with what's meant to be happening in that chapter. It's sort of like a little snippet of an idea of what we can expect. So I did really enjoy this book. I thought it was a perfect read for October, especially with witches. I loved the ending, although it was quite bittersweet, but I don't want to give this story away too much, because I think if you tell too much of the story, then there's not enough of it left to actually grip you to want you to carry on. But I would really recommend it. I gave it 4 stars, and I think it's such a great book. I've only recently started getting into audiobooks, and the one that I got through in October was Invested by Danielle Towns. So this is a sort of autobiographical memoir with financial education mixed in for the hell of it. Danielle Towns is the daughter of the highly successful author, YouTuber Phil Towns, who wrote a book about Rule 1 investing, which is the core principles behind doing value investing. My other half had listened to Invested before me and told me that he thought it was something that I'd really enjoy. This book is how Danielle has managed to overcome her own fear of investing and maths, and how she's managed to push herself to take on the life that she wants. And although it's not full financial freedom, it's the ability to be able to do what she wants without having to worry. So I guess in a way it is financial freedom. But it's done over a 12-month period where she speaks with her dad and gets the ideas. It goes through the basic fundamentals of the value investing, and it also gives a bit of an understanding of Danielle in this 1-year time period, her state of mind, what she's been going through, and also what she's actually wanting to get out of it, why she wants to do this, and the reasons that push her towards it. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. It's great if you want to have sort of like that memoir style writing whilst also getting a bit of understanding of investing. However, if you are wanting something that just tell you about value investing, Phil Towns' book's probably better, just because that's what it's for. That book in itself is only about it. There's a couple of snippets of his own sort of backstory in there, but only to ground the information and to get where he's got the information from, whereas Danielle's is more memoir with a bit of finance information chucked in it. So I didn't do very well in October with my reading. I am really hoping that I can get so much more done in November and December, but I need to like sit down and do it. I'm hoping that by getting some audiobooks listened to as well, that I'll be able to pick it up, because I can do that whilst I'm like tidying the bedroom or washing the pots or driving to and from the shops. But I think having that option as well might help me get through a few more books and maybe hit my 50 book goal for the end of the year. I think I'm currently on 28. So I've got like 22 books to get through in November and December, which it might be a little hard. I don't know if I can get through 11 books each month, but I'm gonna try. I've not got many books that I want to read in November, so I'm not going to do a TBR. I'm just going to try and get through as many as I can. I've got some library books out still that I need to read. I've got about 50 books on my shelves that I've never read, and I think I've probably got about 50 books on my Kindle as well that I've not read, so I'm trying to get through all of these. So I definitely do not have a shortage of books to get through, so I'm hoping November will be a bit of a surprise for its wrap up. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a like, and also don't forget to hit subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. There's a new video out every single week, and we're getting close to December, which means we're getting close to Vlogmas, where I vlog, well, I say vlog, there's going to be a video out every single day in December. 31 days, 31 videos. I might have to sleep in January, but I am looking forward to it. So if you do want to catch any of those that come out, don't forget to hit subscribe. I hope you're all well and you're all staying safe, and until next time, bye!